It's all good. So this is just a casual conversation. I just want to kind of really get to know you and your business and why you came to Acadium, what you use Acadium for, how you mentor apprentices, and the methodology you use essentially. But maybe we'll just start with some background on yourself.
Yes, I mean, kind of the long time span background is that I used to be like a normal person, being a employee, and my career was basically between tourism, which I always liked the interaction with clients, and then corporate, where I used to be a personal assistant, kind of organizing stuff in general, just going from having in the tourism industry lots of clients as opposed to in the corporate I had one client, which was my boss. Much easier. But yeah, at some point I was ready for a change, to work on my own. Didn't really want to have more managers for various reasons, and started off actually as I tried to be like a virtual assistant, administrative consultant, ending up not really knowing how to do anything, learning things from Google, procrastinating everything I should do by building my website, until I just ended up using my procrastination skills to actually just start a web design business instead, because that's what I spent my time on. That's what people kept asking me about to help them. And yeah, and I've been doing this for the last, I think, 6 years now.
Nice. And how have you liked the last 6 years compared to the corporate life?
A lot of things are better because you have the freedom, flexibility, all that stuff that you see in quotes online. So without really wanting the freedom and flexibility, I just wanted to, I guess I wanted the flexibility to work from home. But yeah, it kind of came a little bit without me going for it. I was mostly just moving away from situations that I thought, no, I want something better. I want to decide more things, work according to my values. And it's better in the sense that you have the freedom. It's worse in the sense that you're more anxious about money, for example, the first years, being fully responsible for yourself, not having the manager asking you to do things. So all the uncomfortable stuff is always at the bottom of the list till the account goes down, and then you get a bit panicky, and then you start doing the work that you're supposed to do. And, but it's kind of different. Like when I remember working up like Monday mornings when I was still an employee, and you have that kind of dreaded feeling you don't really want to go to work. That hasn't happened since, and that is amazing. It's a kind of feeling that I was like, oh yeah, I haven't really had that at all the last 6 years.
Funny, I never actually had that feeling on Monday. Monday is my favorite day. I love Mondays.
Well, now I love Mondays. Now it's like Mondays, like, okay, I'm very much a week person. I like my routine, doing my business. And sometimes I can't wait for the weekend to get over so I can get back to my business and doing the stuff. But yeah, it's a big change. It's just different things you worry about. But eventually, for me, it's been absolutely worth it. The learning curve, and it's like a self-development journey as well. You learn a lot about yourself and how to manage yourself, manage people, manage lots of tasks, and yeah.
You mentioned self-development. Maybe touch on that a little bit. How did you teach yourself something like this? And if you can go backwards in time and do something different, what would you do different?
I'm a learner in the sense, like if you do these kind of tests, I always end up being a learner. So I like to learn new things. And 6 years ago, it was easier as well. The whole social media marketing concept. It's the same as now. It's just was less people maybe doing it in that way. So getting visible online was basically showing up, posting a blog post, different places, doing all the stuff that people recommend you to do. If you read around, like all the things that business coaches teach, it's already there online. But it's hard to do it without accountability. So some of it, I did manage to do it, but I think if I would do something better is hiring someone to help me sooner, because I haven't invested maybe enough in people helping me over the years, or investing in the wrong people. So you get scared of investing again. So it's a learning curve as well. How do you know who is good for you? Who will look at your business and help you with your particular needs, as opposed to just stuff you into a program? And yeah, a little bit of maybe be a bit more aware, be a bit more picky about who I would choose to help me.
Maybe dig into that a little bit. Like you mentioned, you would be a little bit more selective in who you would hire going back in time. What are, what specifically, what have you done recently that's helped you a lot in that?
Well, the whole COVID situation made me get my act together in terms of, like in March is when it hit here in Barcelona, and it was quite a few weeks with nothing to do. And what I did in my case is like a good opportunity to re-look at my whole business plan and how I present myself online. And I just went full on LinkedIn, moved away a bit from Facebook, and moved away. I used to work very much for female entrepreneurs, female coaches. But in that moment, I realized I work for men as well. I work for service businesses. So one change was to go into LinkedIn, where things are really just only business focused. I keep saying, you don't have like that much. The cute cat video is not there to distract you on LinkedIn. And on Facebook is business. I use Facebook groups, and they're really good for business in that sense. But there's also like your connections. You never know. Are the connections because friendships, old acquaintances, whatever. On LinkedIn, people connect with you for business purposes, and you talk about business there, and you can get into really interesting conversations, get exposure. So that was one thing I did. And secondly, hire a business coach that this time is like, yeah, it's a good one. And kind of moving it from the typical working too much in your business to working on your business, which is the difficult step, I think, at least for me, because I like to do everything.
A lot of small business owners are like that. It's your baby. You created it. You know it better than anyone else, and it's easier often to do it yourself and cheaper as well.
Yeah, sometimes it's just quicker. Do it myself or explain it to someone. But there are a lot of repeat tasks. So explained once, it's okay.
Exactly. And sometimes the act of teaching it makes things come to light that maybe, you weren't aware of before, and helps you learn a lot better, actually. Maybe let's touch base on Acadium. How did you first hear about Acadium?
I saw someone posting about it in another group, a Facebook group. And I can't remember which group now, because I think I've been with Acadium for 4 years or no?
Wow.
You probably have the stats more than me. I don't know. Look at my stats. But yeah, I had the apprentices for quite a few years, I feel. And I just signed up, and I thought this is exactly what I need, because I have a social media plan. I have structure. So it wasn't so much about, just someone to do the stuff that needed to be done every week. So when I'm super busy with clients, I wouldn't disappear from social media. That was my main concern to begin with, that someone would keep it up even when I wouldn't have time. And also come up with ideas, because I've been doing like Monday quotes. It's something I've been doing consistently for the last, since the beginning almost. I did the kind of the Monday quote. And some mornings it's like, a quote, like, oh my God, what am I going to say today? I don't know. Spend like 45 minutes on Google trying to find a quote, and then making the graphic, and then, okay, what am I going to say about this quote? Like all that stuff, like the apprentices have been a savior for me, because they can spend all that time looking for quotes, and they have like a fresh mind. They don't have their mind full of 10,000 other things. And some of them have been really creative, come up with really great stuff that I wouldn't, have come up with myself. And that's kind of how I started, just needing someone to do my posting for me and come up with ideas.
Now you've been with Acadium for a while now, so you've had quite a few apprentices. What's your process for finding a good apprentice? So I imagine, at first, how is it then, and how have you evolved your process to make it better over time?
That's a good one, because that has been a learning curve for me as well, how to hire good people and how to do an interview, maybe how to select people. And I still think I'm learning on that one. the first ones I had was more like, oh, this is a nice person, cool, I hire you. Until I got a few that's like, oh, she's a nice person, but not very efficient. Like everyone has been nice people, but at some point it's like, oh yeah, I realize now I should probably have asked a few more questions. So I started to be a bit more doing like a pre-selection in terms of sending people questions in advance before I would have a conversation with them. But I mean, still during the conversation for me, it's like the personal connection is important for me, that it's a little bit of, what would you call it? That it's not just business. You can talk about some other things. You have things that you can relate to, some common interests. It's just easier, at least for me, to work with someone that you feel, okay, we have the same humor, or we have some of the interests the same, so that the work part is easier. And I worked with, had apprentices from all over the world. So it's really fun as well with the different cultures. Independent of cultural background, sometimes it's always something that keep you. I had a girl from South Africa, super fun. I mean, she had the best posts sometimes. She was really funny and really entertaining for the group. And I think one from Tunisia. Yeah, the one that you had an interview with her, or she posted a blog post, Hannah, a couple of weeks ago. She was like a work machine and amazing, came up with lots of stuff that, basically thanks to her, my Instagram looks fairly decent. And so it's like, I like the different culture you can work with, but eventually I needed that kind of little bit feeling of, okay, we have a connection as people. And the skills can always be learned. But then I also learned, some skills, it's like, you try something new, they're learning, and sometimes they realize like, this isn't really my thing, like the newsletter thing, or sometimes people want to do some web design stuff, and then it's like, oh no, actually, I thought I would like it, but I don't. So I'm kind of going away from what you initially asked now, but
no, it's all good. This is just, to hear you out ultimately. So you found that at first you weren't very selective, and that was problematic. And then you started being a little bit more intentional on the candidates that you work with, just to make sure that not only were they nice people, but, are they efficient? Do we connect with each other on a personal level? Is this somebody I'd like to work with? And that's generated you more success. That little bit of a shift has been more successful for you. The platform has changed along the way. I'm just curious to hear your feedback actually on back from the old Gen M days to the Acadium days to the more recent Acadium. What have you noticed has been a big improvement, and what would you wish was still there from the old Gen M days?
I like the Gen M name. It took me ages to get used to Arcadium, but never mind. Let's see. I mean, I keep getting you keep asking for feedback all over the place, and usually I give my feedback until at one point my feedback was like, you're asking for feedback too often, because I always say the same things. Over the years, I think it has improved. I think the search function, that I could search for more, because I basically search for social media, email marketing, and lately content marketing, the three things. And I think one of them wasn't that clear in the beginning that I could really select that. So it's become easier to really maybe hone down on the skills or the areas that people want to learn. And you started with the rating system and with the calendar, which I liked in that sense, that they really had to set aside the 10 hours. Because in the beginning, I'm sure still that none of my apprentices really have worked 10 hours, because first of all, I don't keep track, because if the stuff is done, I'm happy. But I tried to have a couple of them track the time, and that didn't work at all. But that was probably just like, again, it was a mismatch, or things happened. I had a few apprentices that also was like, it actually didn't work out to 3 months. So that was one of them. And I'm like, okay, this time I'm going to have them track their time, and I'm going to really understand what they're spending that time with and how much more can we both get out of this. And that didn't go so well. But I was really happy about actually thinking, okay, I know that my person, so to speak, is working Monday morning, Thursday evening. So I'm trying to be more available for replies, and that's a time I can kind of make sure they get work in advance. Yeah, setting the weekly call. I'm not sure if that was there in the beginning, but I already had that with my apprentices in any case. But you got more scheduling tools and the reminders online, and I really enjoyed that.
Cool. So you really like the scheduling tool and the reminders.
Yeah.
We
Because it kind of forces them to also set the hours, which I think before they wouldn't really set hours, or we kind of set hours, but none of them looked at it. So having the system remind them as well as me, for me, I think it's making it efficient, because I think they also need a bit more accountability sometimes. I don't know if they had work experience or not, but I don't want to really like chase after them. Are you working this hour or not? And if it's set already with reminders, they stick better to it.
what about when it comes to the quality of candidates? How have you found that to be?
I mean,
Or over time, has it, you know, I
yeah,
know
I don't feel it has been a difference really, but it could also come back to my kind of way of evaluating people. Because I had some really good ones in the beginning that might just be a coincidence when I didn't really know how to evaluate them. And when I started to be more kind of conscious about, okay, this is how I'm going to evaluate them, I still had a few experiences. I was like, okay, this is not working out for various reasons that I don't blame anyone, but it happened a few times that I just had hired someone. I just have one apprentice at a time. I tried to have 3 at some point, and that was just way too much. I had them like working for my apprentices. Like, oh my god, this is stressful. And I would just hire someone, and then someone in your team would offer me, hey, we have this special high qualified candidate selection for you. And I was like, yeah, but I just hired someone. I'm not going to hire another one now until 3 months. But then the high quality candidates would be gone. And there was another time there was an email about like a link to candidates that had like particular skills. And it was really just 2 people on the list. And so I was just like, okay, I like the idea, but that didn't work out for me, that I felt that I was getting the good candidates that apparently are being selected by you guys.
got it. And you mentioned you did 3 at a time at a certain time, and that was too much for you?
Yes, because, well, 2 of them I had, because one thing is the weekly call, which having a weekly call with 3 people is like 3 hours of your
Oh,
week,
wow.
which in that sense, I
Oh,
mean,
you did them separately? A lot of mentors, they do all of them in one cohort. They don't
yeah,
separate.
I did with, well, one, I had like a side business going on. So I had one apprentice for my side business that had nothing to do with my web design. And he was quite independent. He was even leading the call and like managing me around, which was good. So that was also because I was trying something else on the side and I had the time. And with the 2 I just had them overlap because I wanted some alone time with each one of them. So I would have one, start with one, overlap for a while and finish with the other kind of. But still at that time I was like, okay, it's just like, I don't know.
Too much time.
At that time, it's like mentioned, like, okay, things are getting done, but yeah, it was a bit too much to manage. And but yeah, no, it was good. It was good in that point, since I also had 2 projects going on. There was a guy. Usually, I work mostly with women, since my Facebook groups are for women. So I don't really have many in those groups right now. So usually for that social media stuff. So it was interesting to work with this guy who helped me with, it was like a t-shirt business. I tried to get started on Instagram, and he did a really good job. He had so much creative ideas and really, yeah, like amazing quality in one way. I was thinking like, I get this, like all this work for free. And but yeah, it was just eventually after the 3 months, I was like, oh, I just need a break. Managing people takes time. That was a good learning. Okay, that's true. Yeah, I could do them together, of course.
Let's talk about value for a second here. You mentioned, you know, that sometimes it could be a lot of work, other times you get a lot of value. How has Acadium impacted your business? And a follow-up question would be, how has it personally impacted you?
The business, for sure, that I've been able to be consistent on social media is thanks to the students from Acadium. Also considering that first years, I didn't really have a budget for hiring someone. And in that sense, it's nice to have someone that you feel that you can give them some quality experience in return for them taking care of. For me, the minimum was always social media. If they want to learn more stuff, I would give them more stuff. But that, for me, has really just made sure that my business kept a consistent online presence, independent of my workload. And on a personal level, it's more like, okay, how to manage people. Because in general, I work with codes because I like codes. I don't want to manage people. I want to manage things and organizational stuff. And, and when people don't maybe deliver what you wish they would deliver and having to give feedback that isn't always positive, it was quite difficult for me to manage that in the beginning. And something I really have learned as a person as well, how to give feedback without feeling that it's something bad, or do it in a way that also they don't feel bad, but still getting the point through. And for me personally, also, like, I'm from Norway, and we learn very much the culture is like, oh, you shouldn't, bother people, and like the good girl upbringing. So for me, it was kind of good to get over a little bit like, okay, I have to tell them what I want and not be afraid of correcting them 3 times if that's necessary. And for me, that was good to practice, as like it's a good skill to have in life, not just with work, that when you want something different, you can say so. And yeah, I think that's
sound like the apprentices helped you in your business and also helped you personally overcome some of the predispositions from your background, your upbringing being from Norway, etc., and just essentially how to manage people a little bit better, including giving them feedback. You've gotten a lot better at giving people feedback, which is super important to getting things done. On the business side, let's talk about value. Why did you choose Acadium versus getting a VA in the Philippines or another option for help?
At that point, the kind of 3 months and 10 hours per week seemed less scary than hiring someone. Also cultural wise, I mean, I am now working with some people from, well, I haven't had Philippines yet, but it's like, it is a cultural difference in the communication sometimes. I was supposed to have a call today with a potential programmer from India who just didn't show up to the call. I think she wasn't comfortable actually having a call. And yeah, so it's just, yeah, I guess it was just an easy option. You could just click through, choose some candidates, and if it doesn't go well in 3 months, I don't need to worry about it. I don't need to fire anyone if it doesn't work out. I think that was my main motivation. And also that I saw this ad thinking, well, also it's free at that moment. I mean, you pay for the membership on your platform, but I mean, it's still cheaper than paying someone per hour, even though we can find very cheap labor in other parts of the world. So yeah, it was just a good start actually to get used to delegating, to get used to working with people. Yeah.
Have you ever referred Acadium to anyone?
Oh yeah, I've tried. I mean, I have some referrals. I just never reached the maximum. So
we've actually updated the referral program where you get it actually depends on which plan you're on. So maybe I shouldn't. You're probably on the old membership plan, right? 147 a quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we just updated the referral program, so you just make more money when you refer. I don't know if it applies to the older members. It actually might. A $250 credit would be applied to your account for a referral to someone who signs up to the pro plan. So a little more incentive. What's the language that you use when you refer Acadium?
Oh, let's see. It's been a while since I put it out there now, but basically it's getting people to help you with social media. If if you can't, like, if you get some free help and in exchange you give some experience. Yeah, for a lot of people, they're like, yeah, most people is like, oh, I can't do the social media. How do you keep up the social media? And my answer is always like, I don't keep it up. My apprentices keep it up. Like, that's the thing. So that's kind of my sales pitch is like, yeah, people want to be consistent on social media, come up with ideas, but they don't really know where to start. They don't know what to post. They don't know how to do it. And if you find a good candidate on your platform who also like either is able to learn some things on their own, because I just see from the business owner point of view, some of my clients who would need an assistant, they might not be so good at realizing what they need to teach them for them to work efficiently for them. But
let's talk
initially,
let's talk about mentorship for a second. You know, we found that the best businesses on Acadium are also really good mentors. So what do you do for feedback? How do you provide a good training experience for your apprentices? And do you find that has also enabled you to get more value out of them in your business?
Yeah, I mean, I spend quite a lot of time training them in terms, well, time. I have tutorials, video tutorials. I have everything written by now. But for me, it's establishing a little bit that connection, person to person, and just finding out what do they want to get out of the apprenticeship. Because having someone work for me for free for up to 10 hours, I would like them to feel that they really get some value out of that. That I don't just put them into, it's like, okay, do this stuff, the same stuff for 3 months. So, well, we usually follow the plan a little bit that is set up 3 goals for the next months. And of course, it's all bundled up. Like for me, it's usually newsletters, email marketing, social media content, social media posts. It all gets jumbled up, but eventually, usually start with social media, and then I just see what they're interested in. So I let them try to prepare a newsletter. If they don't like that, okay, we find something else. And yeah, and be available just for questions. And realizing as well, some of them are really on a learning journey. So in some areas, they might need more guidance than others. And in other areas, they know better than me and just kind of yank up my social media presence.
You mentioned that you have tutorials and some, you know, documentation. Was that because of your apprentices and, you know, because you wanted to become efficient in onboarding them, or is that just something you had before and it was useful? Like why, you know, let's dig into your documentation for a second and how helpful that's been, and then whether that was intentionally created for apprentices or just in general in your business.
I have systems up in place already before I work with anyone, because I do it for myself, just to realize like what do I post where on which day and what needs to go where, and hashtags here, no hashtags there, this kind of image here, this kind of image there, all of that. I'm really like structure minded. That's kind of my skill, that I pragmatic structure, all that stuff. But when the apprentices came aboard, I realized, okay, I have to make it really easy for a person from the outside to just come in and easily understand what's going on, because my posting schedule is quite heavy. It's a lot of stuff in different groups. And if you're completely new, it's very overwhelming. So I had to say, okay, what can I do to make it easier? So I developed, like for each apprentice, I would just kept developing ways to present kind of my social media plan, which was most of it, in a way that no matter what kind of learning brain you have, some people like the Excel sheet, some people like the day-by-day sheets, like on Monday this is happening, Tuesday this is happening, other people like bam, and links to all the resources that they need. And one of my apprentices she kept asking me questions, and I kept referring her back to the tutorials, and she's like, it's true, you know, like actually I never need to ask you anything because everything's there. And I was like, that's the intention. Because every 3 months teaching people the same stuff, I was like, okay, it will make it easier for me as well when like look through this stuff, read everything, and then we have a call with your questions before they kind of get
Where
into
do you
that.
where do you manage these tutorials? Like, are they on Google Docs? What's the system you use for that?
I use Trello I base it on a template that you guys provide, but I kind of adapted it to fit my business. So in there, it's a card with all the resources. a card with passwords and access, a card with like, it's a card for everything basically. No matter what they need, there's like, they have a card and they have some either written tutorials or link to the resources like the Canva graphics, link to videos, and the videos, I use them. I use Loom. I'm not sure, within Chrome you have this Loom function. I don't know if you know it.
Yep.
So yeah, most of my tutorials are just like doing it myself, and I talk them through it while I do it the first time, and then it's like the rinse and repeat thing.
Amazing. Is there anything you would like to see that we don't have in Acadium? Perhaps other verticals outside of digital marketing, perhaps a tool, anything you would like to see?
Right now, I think everything is kind of going the right way. I haven't checked out, but I know you now have some paid apprenticeships or job postings or something that I thought might be interesting for me. Because I'm more interested now in hiring people who have skills rather than teaching people simply because I'm a bit lack of ability. But one thing that I kept saying all these times when people ask for feedback, I find like the reference letter has way too few characters. And it's getting less because after the 3-month work, I issue them like a proper letter of reference. And I always have to find out which parts to delete to do my certification in, or like issue the certificate in Acadium. So I think it's too bad that I have so much nice things to say about them, but I actually have to delete half of it. And I don't know if you changed this, was one thing that I was like, I really wish you would change that. I couldn't communicate with new candidates before I had issued the certificate of the previous candidate. And sometimes I think, can you at least give me maybe a gap of 5 days? Because I check with my current apprentice, like, I have this reference for you. Did I forget anything? Because sometimes they do stuff that I forget. So I check with them, hey, this is what I plan to post. Is that okay with you? And sometimes that happens last minute. And then I go into Acadium and want to talk to my new candidate, but I can't get there because I'm forced to do the certificate, but I'm not ready to issue the certificate. So this is one thing that I said that like 5 times. And I was like, this is not going to happen, is it? Maybe it happened now.
Where have you said that? I guess in just the feedback modals?
Yeah, through emails, through the feedback module on the website. I mean, yeah, because sometimes I get an email asking for feedback. Sometimes you have the pop-up giving feedback. So basically, at the end of every apprenticeship, when I found that screen that I could not get away from, because I had to issue a certificate when I wasn't ready to issue a certificate because I needed 2 more days, I would bang, putting the feedback forward. Like, I don't like this error. I want to talk to my new apprentice, but I can't do it now. So yeah, that's the only thing that the last kind of years that I was like, can't we have a little bit of a gap? I understand it's important to give a certificate, but sometimes
that makes sense.
It would be nice to have a little bit of overlap between, like, yeah, not having to do it on the actual last day. So, but I mean, it's not a huge thing. Eventually, I'm like, okay, I have to prepare the certificate 2 weeks in advance so that they're both ready, check with my intern, I'll get back and work. So, yeah.
Have you hired any of your apprentices, or would you hire any apprentices?
I eventually work a little bit with one of my first ones. She actually lived here in Barcelona, a French girl called Lucille. So I kept in touch with many of my apprentices because we're still in the Facebook group and stuff. So I needed someone to help me manage my projects. And eventually I thought, yeah, she would be perfect for that. So we're trying out now, even though it's not that many hours yet, but it's, I think, one of the better ones I've had. And I know she was also hired by someone else on Acadium. So I was like, yeah.
We're doing our job if they get paid work.
Yeah, exactly. When you get a good one, I talked to the one that she also works for. And she's like, yeah, when you get a good one, keep her. I was like, that's good advice. That's a good advice.
That's one of the main values for businesses. I mean, sure, they get good help, but like you said, it's a good way of also finding talent at a low risk, right? You don't want to make a mistake in your hiring.
So yeah, that's a good way to say it. Finding talent at low risk. That's a good sales pitch.
I mean, our mission is to enable economic mobility. for yourself and for our apprentices as well. And we do it by making careers accessible to anyone with just an internet connection.
Yeah.
And then, businesses like yourself, you're literally changing the lives of your apprentice. It may not seem like a big deal, but when they leave and their life is completely different and they can get hired and earn income or experience that gets them hired in the future, or experience that they can stack on their other experience to enable them to be more mobile and get more opportunities, that's life-changing for a lot of them. And businesses like yourself that make it happen.
Yeah, that's nice to know.
Yeah, it's a big deal. No, it really is.
Yeah. It's nice to know some of my apprentices as well. There was one, she didn't work that much for me because she was helping with a part, because we had agreed it that way. And she had a full-time apprenticeship next to it that she got just after starting with me. And she said, well, I learned more the few hours with you than I learned full day in this company. So I was like, wow, really? Wow, that was so great to hear, because I always think like, okay, yeah, am I bringing them value back when they, in one way, do a lot for me? So yeah, that's also very rewarding as a business owner to see that, like, okay, yeah, they do get a lot out, learn a lot, kind of working for you. So
well, I mean, just think about how you're thinking about it. When you hire someone, you're not thinking, oh, I have to make sure they get value and that they learn something. You don't think that way, right? You think, I'm paying this person, I hope they can do the job I'm paying them for, right?
Yeah, no,
but with
that's
an apprentice,
true.
it's different, right? It's like, oh my God, I know they're unpaid. I hope I can mentor them and give them a good experience. So it changes the relationship for something that really is quite unique and remarkable. Something, I'm excited about. All right, so I think we can wrap it up here. I know it's kind of late where you are, and leave it if any last words you want to throw in there.
Yeah, no, in general, I think it's a great experience, and I think it's really good for especially new business owners to kind of go on the journey I've been doing, getting used to have some help. Also, it's a lot of accountability, having someone who's waiting for you to tell them what to do, so you can't kind of procrastinate so much anymore. And yeah, generally, I think it's a really, really good solution and the system that you set up.
Thank you very much. Well, good to have you in the community, madam. And if you need anything, just shoot me an email or reach out to the team.
Sure do. Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
You too.
Cheers.
Bye. Ciao.
Bye. Ciao.